So cucumber. So the first thing you want to do when you're doing the cucumber, it's really we call it an instant kimchi. It's something that you can make. It's not fermented. However, you can ferment it, but if you're going to ferment it, then you would leave out this oil, and then you would add fish sauce. If you are not vegan, you could add fish sauce, but traditionally the fish sauce is added sort of as a as part of the salting agent. But what we do is we're going to cut these up, and I'm going to let them salt down a little bit. And while it's salting, then we'll prepare all the other ingredients. So we'll just put that in the bowl. And I don't really do measurements. Well, because I mean, it's really up to you how much of everything you want in your dishes. Some things like baking, you need to make sure you've got, the exact amounts. But for things like this, really and truly, it's about your personal taste. Of course, there's I guess a minimum requirement, I would say, if you're going to get a more authentic flavor, especially for the garlic and the ginger. Now there's a fermented cucumber kimchi that is made this time of year with pickling cucumbers, and in Korea they call it oi sobagi, and sobagi means stuffed. And so how they do it is, let's imagine this is a dill, like a dill pickling cucumber, and so we would cut it. I'll show you because we can actually do. So then you would cut it like this, where you have one end still open, and then you would salt the inside and let that sit, and while it gets a little bit softened, and then you would make the what they call sobagi, means the stuffing, right? So sobagi means like the things that go inside. So you would make all the stuff that would go inside, and typically green onions are not used. Typically the garlic chives are used, but you can use green onion. I have used green onion when there weren't any chives, which is most of the time, because you just don't find it. We have one Chinese farmer, Mark, I almost called him Matthew, Mark and Margaret, who are at the Boyce Farmers Market, and Mark does grow the Chinese garlic chives. Yeah, I just bought some from him the other day. And
garlic chives. I don't know, they're Chinese. They're garlic chives.
Yeah.
You gave me some a few years ago.
They're flat.
Yes.
Yeah, they're flat, and they're not like the regular chives. They have the kind of round like this, They're flat, and they're some get quite tall, but they're perennial. I know that my mother used to harvest, and she would just get scissors and cut it, and then it would just, cut and come again. You could just come back and get it. Of course, then it would seed out eventually. But then you would stuff it with the green onions, the garlic, the ginger, and then you just you would open it up and stuff it in there, and then you would set it in your container, and then just let it ferment on your. Typically, the fermentation, you want to leave it out at room temperature for about 1 day. Usually sometimes it's longer, depending. In the winter, when your kitchen's a bit colder, you would probably go 2 days, but you can see it once the fermentation begins. That's when you would put it in the refrigerator. It doesn't stop the fermentation, it just slows it down. And this one, the oi sobagi that is made, is typically not fermented long period, like cabbage kimchi, like the normal, what most people know as kimchi. So that one is eaten quickly. So We eat it before it's ever, honestly, I make a batch and I'll make a batch when the cucumbers start coming in. I'll make a batch a week and the kids just, it's just like boom, 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 it's gone, you know, and he eats them and everybody's just loves them. So yeah, you can make that as well. And if you're vegan, you can substitute the fish sauce for like kombu water, like a dashi water. Are you familiar with that? So you take the seaweed, the kelp that you can buy in the Asian food store, and you simmer it just lightly, and then you can actually reduce it down so that it's more concentrated, and you could use that in place of the fish sauce. Yeah. But today we're going to do this instant kimchi. I think in Korea they don't even really call it kimchi because kimchi is a fermentation process. So they would call it muchim, which is, muchim means like mixed, like made up quickly. It's a very quick dish, and it can be made with other vegetables as well. So salt, it's a bit of salt. But you just want to put it, I think that was probably about a teaspoon, maybe a little more. And then you can toss it and then just let it sit there. And then while that's sitting there, we're going to get the other ingredients ready. So the ginger, usually you don't add a ton of ginger. The rule is with most kimchis, the ginger is about maybe a fourth of what you would add for the garlic, typically. So if you're adding 4 cloves of garlic, then you want to add, you know, a little bit like this. So we'll cut up the green onions, and I just split them in half like that, so that it's the flavor comes out. These are beautiful. I love that purple. Kind of looks like sweetgrass. What kind are these? Do you know?
So this is they're both grown from sets, onion sets. It's a red onion set this year.
Oh, wow.
And it just added a little top of color to the garden beds and to everything else, honestly.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love colors. Last year purple was my color, and everything I planted in the garden had to be a purple variety. It was fun.
Is that like the spring onions that you guys have?
Yep.
Right, that's right. And so these bunches over here are the exact same ones. I just borrowed a few from the cooler.
This is fresh garlic. Very fresh.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I don't think I've ever seen one like that.
No?
No.
Yeah, they're really crunchy. When you, in Korea, when you eat, like in a restaurant, they always bring out side dishes, right? And one of the side dishes is just sliced up garlic, and on the same little plate they'll have sliced up garlic and sliced up chili peppers. And that way you can just add that to whatever, yeah. And so, you know, they say you're supposed to eat how many cloves a day? It's not easy if you're not eating garlicky foods, but I eat a lot of garlic. We grow quite a bit of garlic for the family. We're looking forward. What's that?
How many a day are you supposed to?
I think it's like they say a clove a day. Does that sound right? I think so. That's, I guess the idea of that is that you want to get enough of that that allicin. We talked about this at the last week. Last week. It's been 2 weeks. Yeah. But the compound that's in garlic that is so healthy is a compound called allicin, and it doesn't form, like it's not in here. I mean, it has to be oxidized. So what you want to do is you want to cut up the garlic and expose it to air. So they say, you know, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, maximum is 48 hours because the allicin will actually start degrading after 48 hours. So you want to pre-grind your garlic. I'd been doing that for years, and my son, who's researching things all the time. He came and told me that. He says, you know, you shouldn't do that. You're losing all the Allison. I said, no. I said, if you grind it and freeze it, it's going to put it in suspended animation. He said, no, it's gone. So, of course, I had to check his work. And, and he was right. He was right. He was absolutely right. And so, starting this year, we're not... I just did it for convenience, grinding it up, because like I said, we go through a lot of garlic. 300 cloves in our family. Yeah, and I think we're going to have to grow more this year because we've upped our garlic intake. So we might go to maybe 500 head this year. So you want to cut it up, and I'm going to put all this in here. Nobody's opposed to garlic. You wouldn't be here if you didn't want garlic. Everybody's a garlic lover. If you're a foodie, I think you're a garlic lover. Yeah, you have to be, it seems, because garlic is such a great flavor enhancer.
So the minced garlic you buy in jars and oil in stores, that won't have the allicin in it?
No, it wouldn't. It would have degraded. Yeah.
What about steaks?
I think it would be the same. Yeah, yeah. So I think, you know, like I just put up 20 half pints of garlic pesto, and we put it in the freezer. So I'm assuming it'd be great to, you know, test that, take it to a lab and say how much allicin is in it after, you know, a month or 2 months. But that's okay. I'm not going to stop putting up my pesto. I love my pesto. Yeah.
Garlic butter on your bread that you
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. And then you've got your allicin. I like the name because it's typically well, it can be a man's name, but it's a woman's name typically. Yeah. But I've met male allicins, and humans aren't cooking at home anymore, and most people aren't really eating real food. They're eating processed or partially processed, pre-made foods. I mean, even this meal prep thing, I'm not into that so much because I like to eat a variety of foods, and so eating the same thing all week long does not appeal to me. It's not a...
It's nice to cook. Cooking is like a ritual, right? It's relaxing.
Yes, well, it's a meditation, I think. I mean, it's really forming this relationship with food that is so important for humans today, always has been, but more so today because we've gotten away from it so much. So yeah, we'll chop that up, and the more air that it touches, the better it is for it, so we'll chop it up fine. And we'll let that sit, and I'm going to get a little piece of this ginger. I don't know how much ginger they're going to use, but it's just going to have to come off. And I think everybody knows the spoon trick, right? To peel it with the spoon. Yeah, it's easier to peel. You just take a spoon, and you see how it doesn't waste.
Amazing.
Yeah. Now in the kitchen, I'm not just dumping it on the floor. This is nice cooking outside. Outdoor kitchen is a must. You just put it on the ground, but certainly a little bit of ginger isn't going to hurt.
Can you grow ginger here?
Yes, Maddie said there's some in the greenhouse growing. I know, I didn't know it either. There's a farmer down in the state of Maine who is growing ginger.
Wow.
Yeah, they said the only drawback to it is that because it's a tropical plant, that they just have to replant it every year.
Okay.
Whereas in the tropics, they would just harvest partial, you know, and then just leave the rest and then harvest more next year. But here they're harvesting. But I would imagine, as we've seen potatoes surviving the winter, they're probably finding some, and then I hope they're taking those and isolating them, saying these are surviving. Has anyone else had potatoes survive from the previous year in your garden? Yeah. Yeah, that's so weird. They just come up and they you know, they survive the whole winter. I have some in my in my garlic bed this year because I do 2 plantings of potatoes, so after my garlic gets pulled up, I planted potatoes and I missed a few apparently. And so they're now coming up in between. I don't know how the roots will be. I don't know how if we'll get real, you know, tubers, but you see that? That's it. So I'm going to use about half of that because we're not going to do too much ginger in it. But if you like more ginger, you can put more ginger in it.
There is a kind of wild ginger that grows in Canada.
There is, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's rare. I've seen it, and it's of course not as sweet and juicy as this is, but it has the same properties. You could use it, yeah. So I'm going to chop this up again with the garlic, just so that it's minced up really nice. Just thought of this, maybe we should toss this one more time. Oop. I don't know where it went. Did it go off the table? Okay. Ducks, where are you? Ducks would eat it. Oh, I'm throwing those back in. Okay. I'm not tossing too good. So if you use like, this looks like a field cucumber, is that what that is? Or is that English?
I believe it's a field cucumber.
Okay.
We're grown in our hoop house.
Okay, yeah, field cucumbers are probably my least favorite for making because this one's fine. Because the skin is quite thick. Usually in the winter time we'll make this just as a quick, it's a salad basically, right? So we'll make it as a side dish. But we use the English cucumbers because they're abundant here. But in the summer months we use the pickling cucumbers because the thin skin on them makes it really nice. Okay, so there's that. And I think we're ready. So we're going to add, I'll put that there, add everything to it. So now you've added your garlic, your ginger, and your green onion. And then you're going to add some sesame seed. I'm going to, just so that we kind of get a measurement, because I don't know. There's a thing in Korean culture called sonmat. Sonmat means, literally it means hand flavor. So your hands know the flavor is what they're saying. And so my mother always said I had good sonmat, that I could tell by just measuring. So that's about a tablespoon, I'm going to see. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, so about a tablespoon for a couple of cucumbers. You can add more. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I just want more of that roasted flavor. Now this is the one that, this is up to you as well. This is cayenne, but this is not normal cayenne. This is Korean cayenne made out of Korean chili peppers. And I'm going to, I'll tell you what, I'm going to put in a, ooh, see? Yeah, see what happens? So we're going to put in a little bit. No, but the beauty of Korean cayenne is this. It's called gochugaru. You can buy it at they sell it at the Friendship convenience store. And it's different because Koreans recognize the high levels of nutrients in cayenne. So the cayenne peppers that they grow are not as spicy. So that, you're going to be surprised. That's not that spicy. And I'm going to pass this around because I want you to see it's been removed. So when you make this, I grow it and I make my own, but I don't think that's the one I've made. I'm using up the rest of it. But be careful, some of them are made in China. They're all grown and everything's being done in China, but it's okay. They're still using the Korean seeds. So I take all the seeds out and then put the peppers, the skins, into the food processor and then just real quick. And that's what you end up with is those little kind of, no, I should have brought some that I made because I did, yeah, I did grow some. And then I'm going to measure this so that you can kind of see, but normally I would say, it looks like about 2 tablespoons. That's what I would add. And I'll just use this, huh?
What kind of oil is that?
That is roasted sesame seed oil, and make sure it's roasted. Maddie was saying that he bought some, but it wasn't that dark. And this one is dark because it's a roasted sesame seed. Like these are roasted sesame seeds. They have a different flavor. If you want, I can pass this around. You can smell it. Yeah, nutty.
The the pepper flakes are really good just sprinkled on pizza, sprinkled in ramen, sprinkled on salad, just add it wherever you want.
Yeah, because it's not that spicy. No, it looks really spicy, but it's not.
I actually love spicy.
Yes. I like a variety of foods, so this is yeah, and you'll get used to, you'll get your sonmat as well. You'll know how much to add, and you'll be able to toss this together in 10 minutes. This is the one that our family eats when we go, oh, we don't have any good kimchi, it's all, you know, whatever, and Anthony will say, well, I'll throw some cucumber kimchi together, and it's ready in 10 minutes, you know, I mean, it's really so fast. Yeah. So, there we go. So you guys can see it here. I'll bring it out. You see? All right. So, you know, I put the butter in here, but then I thought, is somebody vegan? I apologize if anyone's vegan. There is some at the bottom. No, everybody's good? Okay. Okay. Yeah, me too. I like butter. Buttered rice. So we got buttered rice, and we're going to try this. So I'm going to mix this up. Let's do this. We'll do you want to put a little kimchi on each one? And
Sure.
yeah, thank you. And then we can
Hi, camera.
I can't forget it's there. Forget it's there. It's
What are we looking for? Something like that?
yeah, just a little. Yeah, that's good. Just so that they can taste it. I think it'd be.
Smells amazing.
Yeah, I love cucumber kimchi. It's a great way to eat cucumbers. You know, there's over 200 at least, well, depending on how many vegetables. You could make so many different kinds of kimchi. I think that Western society, they've learned about cabbage kimchi, which is one, and there's literally hundreds of them. The Korean people make kimchi out of almost everything. I've had so many different kinds of kimchi. It's like, okay, can we kimchi that? Yes. Let's do it.
What's the most unusual kimchi you've had?
Oh, I think it would be the perilla seed kimchi, which is perilla seed leaf, which is it's a member of the mint family. It has a really strong flavor. It's one of my favorite vegetables. And I'd never had it until I think I was pregnant with my second child, and my mom's friend who was, Mom said she came from the countryside, and I said, oh, so she knows vegetables. She made a jar of this kimchi out of the perilla leaves, and the perilla already has a very strong flavor, which I love. It's one of my favorite flavors, and she made a kimchi out of it. It was amazing. Yeah, very delicious. There we go. Want to try that?
Yes, we can share
You
one.
want to share one? You sure?
we will.
Okay. There you go. Oh, you don't have to. There's plenty. There's plenty, really. There we go. Uh-huh. Oh, yes, you're welcome. Actually, no. In Korea, they have such an array of chili peppers, and each one has its own purpose. And so there's one. It's a gochugaru. It's one that's specific for gochugaru, and the other ones are used for different things. There's even one they call it oi gochu. Oi means cucumber, so it's a cucumber gochu. And it does. It's like very fresh, and there's no heat to it. And that one, we actually take that and we dip that in gochujang and eat it, which is funny because it's a very mild pepper, but you dip it in the hot sauce to eat it, and it's a side dish. So, yeah, it's a different. There's a honggochu, there's pat gochu, there's I don't even know all the gochus that they have.
Means
Pepper, chili pepper. Yeah, gochujang. Yeah, chang, anytime you see the word chang at the end of the Korean word, it means it's fermented. Yeah, doenjang is the soybeans that are fermented, gochujang is the chili peppers that have been fermented, and then you have kanjang. Kan means kan is like taste or flavor, and that's soy sauce. So that's fermented. Because the soy sauce, like when you eat kikkoman soy sauce, it's not really soy sauce. No, it's made out of wheat. And it was something that the Japanese, they learned from the Koreans, and then when the wheat came into play in Japan, the Japanese started using wheat. So kikkoman is made out of wheat. Korean kanjang, which is the authentic, real soy sauce, that comes from a byproduct of making doenjang, which is the fermented soy paste, which is used as a broth. We use it in wraps, so when you have wraps, we put that. We just had some the other day, and you put that on. It's a flavoring fermented soybean thing.
You know where shoyu comes in?
Yeah, shoyu is the Japanese soy sauce. Yeah, shoyu. Yeah, yeah. So Japan and Korea, they have a very long history. Some of it wasn't so nice. And I said, "Why are you wearing a kimono?" And she said, "We had to. They took away our, so very similar to the indigenous situation here. They took away the language. My mother was fluent in Japanese, and I didn't know that. I was like, we moved to Okinawa straight out of Korea, and I didn't know why she agreed to go to Okinawa, because for years my father was in the army, and he would come back and make another baby, and he'd go, and she'd say, "No, I'm not going, I'm not leaving." And then finally he got orders for Okinawa, and she said, "I will go." And I asked her why, and she said, "Well, I spoke the language, I know the food. It was, I could swim across the Yellow Sea and come home if I had to." So yeah. So she spoke fluent Japanese by colonization, right? Yeah, yeah. Is it good like that? Okay, excellent.
We do a zucchini pasta when we put salt on it.
Water out.
And then we get rid of that.
Yeah.
It's just stringy like spaghetti.
Yeah.
Whereas you left it in.
Yeah, you can take it out?
Yeah, but you don't get salt. I mean, it's not salt.
No, I just put a little bit of salt in there. Yeah, I did it quick. You can salt it and then strain out the water if you wish. Well, if you're going to keep it, yeah, you probably need to. But we are eating it right away, so it didn't matter, because it will draw, and later on, if you leave this in the refrigerator, later on it's going to it'll be sitting in a pool of water. Yeah. But that's okay. I'll drink the water too. Yeah. Yeah, put it on top of the rice. Okay. And cucumber kimchis, there's so many. Did you get one? You got one. Okay.
I know.
Oh, you ate it? Yeah, okay. But there's so many, and there's another one that's made. They call it oiji. Oiji means it's sort of like our, what a salt brine pickle is. You know what I'm talking about. Where they use no vinegar. It's lacto fermented cucumbers. Yeah. Yes, yeah, exactly. Same, but without the spices. And so with the brining solution, anytime you're using brine to pickle something, it does get sour because the lactic acid develops over time. And the lactic acid, you don't need vinegar. And so when I make them, he loves those pickles, so I make a ton of the pickles. And the oiji is a whole cucumber, and then we put it in the saltwater brine, and then after it changes colors. You know how it goes from that bright green, then it'll turn that kind of pale, darker green. Then we pour off the juice, boil it again to get rid of any bacteria, cool it, and we put it back in. I did that, and I just ate my last one 2 weeks ago. So nearly a year, and it was crunchy, was it not? It was just as crunchy it was in October, November, and it keeps the whole winter. And that's the secret, is you gotta pour it off and reboil the brine, because what happens is it's diluting it, right? You're starting with the 3%. I find it interesting that it's 3%. In some parts of Korea that are near the ocean, they just use seawater, because that's what you want is 3%. The seawater is 3%. And I would guess that that's where pickling came from, and lacto-fermentation was because people were adding salt water from the ocean into the vegetables. And so I have a friend who's a crab fisherman, and so that's one of my goals, is for him to, we just haven't coordinated it, but for him to bring some water, ocean water back, so that I can make kimchi using the ocean water. And that would be probably as authentic as you're going to get.
Aura has a brand of kosher pickles. Bubbies? Would that be the same process that you were talking about?
You know, I don't know. I've seen bubbies, but sometimes even with the kosher pickles, I've noticed that they're adding vinegar. And you can do that, but the lactic acid is what you're really after if you want like authentic. But some people do, they'll add a splash, even in Korea they'll add a splash of vinegar sometimes, depending on the pickle. We make pickled onions, you know, lacto-fermented pickled onions, and at the last step after we've boiled it and then added the brine back in, we'll just add a splash of vinegar just to stabilize. Yeah. Now, oh yeah, no, and those are shelf stable, so you can actually leave them out. And I know some people might go, what? I have some in my cupboard that are going on 10 years old, and they're crunchy, yes, and they're delicious. Yeah, it had and it was my sister-in-law. Basically, they keep forever. And so my sister-in-law made it, and when she came up here to visit the first time, she brought a jar of it. And it's still in great shape, and she had pickled onions and garlic. She left the garlic right in just the whole garlic head. And when I want to eat it, I just pull some out, and it's something you eat lightly because it's a salty food, but delicious. Yeah, yeah. And I think she put jalapenos in there too. Any questions? No?
Oh, that vegetable from the sea that you mentioned.
Yes.
I wonder if you could write it down, because I don't know how it's spelled. I could.
Oh, the dashimi?
No, the most unusual kimchi.
Oh, it's not from the sea. It's a perilla.
Perilla.
Perilla. Yeah. Perilla. Yeah. In Japan they call it shiso, but it's a bit of a different variety. There's a Korean perilla and there's a Japanese perilla. Japanese perilla it's kind of ruffly on the edges, whereas the Korean perilla is just it's toothed, but it's shaped like a heart shape. And the leaves get quite large, and we make kimchi out of it. But the primary way that I eat it, at the end of the season I'll make kimchi with the last harvest, but during this time of the year we make wraps. And so I get the lettuce and put the perilla leaf in, and it's got a really nice, like a minty, basil-y, I don't even know how to describe it. It's skenyip is what they call it in Korea. Yeah.
So were the cucumbers so crispy because of the salting process that you did?
No, I think they were just crispy. Yeah, yeah, they're very nice.
I mean,
yeah.
if you had, picked it up, they were kind of, wilty.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter, they do quite well.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, but I'll be happy to write it down for you. You can find the seeds. I think there's a company in California called Kawazawa Seed Company, and they specialize in Asian vegetables. Yeah.
I heard the word pesto, and there is some pesto here if you want a snack while I'm just chatting for a minute about salad in a jar. Maybe we'll get to it in a bit. Essentially, all that we're doing here is taking the veg that we want, maybe to, keep a little longer in salad form, and doing it in jars. Something that maybe not everyone knows is that the decay process, what is causing our veg to wilt, you know, when it's in the fridge, is oxidization. So if we can put it in a jar, which is what we'll do here, we're going to eliminate that air from getting in there, and so you're able to keep a salad even longer. So I'm just going to start chopping it up. The whole idea of a chopped salad in a jar is going to be based purely on preference. It could be the same every time, it could be something different every time. This vinaigrette that I've poured a little bit into the bottom is a black currant and raspberry vinaigrette. It's got some garlic scapes in there. We used apple cider vinegar and some chive vinegar. So that's just something else that if you weren't aware, many of the edible flowers that are around us, you can submerge them in white vinegar, and the result is a floral vinegar, or in our case, it was a chive flower, so chive flower vinegar. I'm just going to start chopping these up. All we want is them to be bite-sized as we want them, so you're just going to watch me do a little bit of labor. Like, what else can I say?
How long would they have to be submerged, the flowers, in vinegar before you can actually...
So for your floral vinegars, some of them are incredibly floral tasting and color-wise the next day. It could be hours later. The vinegar extracts that really well, but some of them definitely need to sit for a bit more time. In the past year, the chive vinegar that I used, we made last year, and so it keeps for an incredibly long time. It is in the fridge, and the color keeps on it quite well also. One that took a little bit longer though, we tried doing a, you can make a vinegar with goldenrod flowers, and it seemed that it took a long time for the color to impart and for the flavor to impart. And so I think that it's just a little bit of learning the plant. And so with this method, I've put some things in the bottom that I don't think is going to soak up all of the liquid that's in there, and I honestly may add a little more dressing. You want to put something in the bottom that isn't going to become soggy, you know, whatever that might be. If you decided to put sunflower seeds or sesame seeds, maybe you want them on the top. What I've seen used in the base, if you enjoy a chickpea in your salad, that's something that's perfect to go into the bottom. It's not going to soak anything up. And then when you dump the salad out, everything just is coated quite nice. And so I think that's more than enough cauliflower. Slice up some carrots. Just a handful of carrots. And I'm probably not going to be able to fill this jar, to be honest, with what I've got here. So chopped salad, you can chop up whatever the heck vegetable you want. I don't have any cucumber because we just used it, but I did grab some peas out of the field, and you know, fully edible, and they're beautiful. So I'll chop those up, leaving out my fingers. Yep. And we'll drop it in, just make a little bit more of a mess.
Very crunchy though.
And so the purple pea, if you haven't seen them before, they're a really cool creation, I guess. Annapolis Valley Seeds is where we've got these from. If you were maybe skeptical, the pod is fully edible, of course, that's why I'm putting it in there. With many of our purple vegetables, when you cook it, it does lose that color, and so it's fun to eat them fresh. I'm just going to rip off some of this lettuce. We don't need to chop it. And we have So what I've put in here, we have our vinaigrette, we have some cauliflower and our peas. I'm going to chop up some broccoli as well. We have lettuce, and I have some spinach that I'm throwing in. We have some pea shoots that we've grown. Chopped salad is like whatever you want. I even have some raspberries that we can, just add a little bit more of that flavor in. Just roughly chop up some broccoli stems. Broccoli, just to give us something else, a little more crunch on top. And essentially that's all we're going after is a salad in a jar. You could take that with you, you can leave it in the fridge at work, you can leave it in your fridge at home, and I would expect that you can get, about a week longer out of the veg, just because it isn't wilting away. And so why don't I go grab a bowl that we can dump it into, and we can then that we need. But essentially when you're ready, you just dump it out. And it's, lightly coated. I think it looks lovely. Hopefully it tastes as nice. It looks like our dishes have been taken away. Allie will be back momentarily. Just toss it up a little.
I get mine. What did you put in your vinaigrette?
Vinaigrette. And so this was made using our currants and raspberries kind of as like the very base. There are 2 green onions in here, just the white kind of stem at the bottom, instead of a shallot. I put, instead of garlic cloves, there are a couple of garlic scapes in here. There's also just a plain neutral oil, would be canola oil. Thank you. And maple syrup is the sweetener instead of honey. There's always many things that you can use. And our chive vinegar is in there as well. Yeah. Makes a beautiful color, and so this vinaigrette, Robert isn't in the audience anymore, but inspired by Rob, they made that one time. Let's dish some out. Is there anyone who doesn't want any in the bowls, or should I just start filling bowls? Is everyone keen on that?
I get my bowl if you want to.
Sure. And so I guess I should have a large spoon. Well, it'll be imperfect.
Nothing's perfect.
Right?
Imperfect is perfect.
Perfectly imperfect, yeah.
But there are some things that are very symmetrical.
So I've got 7 portions here, and you're welcome to come and give it a try. And I'll open this up as well if you want to throw some chips and some pesto. It's here. I approve.
That is garlic scape pesto, yes. Fantastic.
I made some. I'll do a comparison.
I make
Yeah,
them too.
yeah.
Well, I use them. Cecelia's recipe.
Yeah, of course. And I guess another focus, we're trying to do everything at these workshops, seasonal eating. And so this is exactly what's available. We didn't use anything else, purchased, say for our ginger. But even to say we are growing ginger this year in our hoop house for the first time. It's in there, but it's a little too young for us to dig up, and so we'll leave it a little while longer.
Really good.
Thank you. And so this pesto, So it's a scape and green medley pesto. I kind of just walked around and knowing what is edible. This will have like the base of scapes, but it has some goatweed in it, which is a noxious plant that is everywhere, fully edible. There are some pea shoots in here. There's a little bit of lemon balm. There's some sorrel, which is another wild plant. There's just a little bit of mint in there. There's a couple of sweet potato leaves. And so, scape and green medley pesto, for sure. Sorry, yes, as well. There's Parmesan cheese, and instead of the lemon juice, this uses rhubarb juice, just as a, I don't know if you were at the last workshop, but it uses the rhubarb juice instead of lemon.
What did you just stop the rhubarb?
So the rhubarb, right, and so there's a couple of different ways. The one that I've used was a rhubarb juice where the flesh was cooked down for quite a long time on the stove and it just releases all that liquid. Another way that you can do it, you can use an actual juicer and you'll get a more tart liquid that way, but cooking it does just fine. In a pinch, I guess you can just mash it up and you'll get something out of it, just hard work.
The actual stem, not the...
That's right, right, it's all from the stem.
Is there something noxious in the leaves?
That's right. Rhubarb leaves are toxic, humans and animals alike. So when we harvest our rhubarb, just in case anybody might not be aware of that, we rip that leaf off and put it in our compost or somewhere else. It's powerful, the rhubarb juice is. Yeah. The cauliflower that is in this, we've never grown cauliflower before here at the farm. I believe that perhaps in the farm's first year we did grow some, but there was quite an issue with insects, so it never happened. But 2023, we're growing some lovely cauliflower. We have a few of them maybe still at the table there.
What does the goutweed look like?
Goutweed, let me grab a stem. So this is goutweed. Bishop's goutweed is its name, and I guess there are a few other common names for it. There is a variegated variety of this. You know, it'll have the white kind of edge around all of the leaf. Same exact plant, just a bit of variegation. They sell this in plant stores, but it's a noxious invasive. Once you have it in a plot, it's very hard to get rid of, but it is edible. And so we can eat it. The leaf form, you know, so this has, you know, 3 different kind of sets of leaflets. The smaller bits of the plant will only start with that, you know, it's just, so there's a little bit of difference to the form. But the remedy is, if say we had a garden right here and it was filled with it, we would need to cover it with a tarp. And do that whole occultation process of killing the weeds for 4 years. It takes a very long time, it's very resilient, all it wants to do is grow. Goatweed.
Do you eat the stem too, or?
I don't know, it might be a little bit more like tough, but I can't see. I don't see why not.
Right.
Kind of tastes like a carrot leaf, honestly.
Chop it up like parsley.
Yeah, yeah. There's just so much of it. It's like this rose bush over here, or that what used to be a rose bush, I guess. All the greenery around the base is all goatweed.
It's so much prettier when it's variegated.
It is prettier when it's variegated. I have learned, however, that the variegated form, while it is less invasive, it can spread and eventually lose its variegation, transition to this green one, and just become worse. And you'll see it everywhere, especially that variegated one. I guess that's all I've got for you. Really appreciate you all coming out. Thank you.
Thank you. So here the picking, or
And so, for what? Sorry?
for picking the
Raspberries, right? Yes. And so, Jess, could you show them to that area?
okay.
I'm glad you came out.
Yeah, and Matt, too.
Thanks.